not even mean Bowers game for me.
Ahoy there, YouTube! I'm back again today for another game review, and today we're excited to check out Stuff Happens, the Parenting Edition from Pressman Games. This is for, Ahoy there, YouTube! I'm back again today for another game review, a special expansion review, and today we're excited to check out Stuff Happens, the Parenting Edition, which is for 2 players, ages 13 plus, and it'll take, I don't know, about 15 to 30 minutes to play. And in Stuff Happens, the Parenting Edition, this is a standalone / expansion to the original base game Stuff Happens, and also the adult party game Expletive Happens, which you can probably guess what that expletive is, where essentially all the cards are going to be from the perspective of the parent. So in this game, you're going to be slotting how good or how bad things are. Well, how bad things are. So a misery index of 100 would be something absolutely terrible, and a misery index of 5 would be something that's not so bad. And your job is to try to put those cards in order, a la card lines or timelines, if you've played that game before, trying to figure out which one is or isn't worse and get 10 of those cards in a row. It's very light, it's very simple. It spawned quite a few different versions of the game because it's very popular, but is this expansion very good? Let's open it up and I'll tell you what I think. Alright then, we'll take a look at what you're going to get inside of Stuff Happens, the Parenting Edition. So first and foremost, we have a handy dandy rule booklet. It's just what you see right here, and overall, it's well done. It should have you up and running in no time at all. Also, if you're familiar with any of the other versions of Stuff Happens, this one should be immediately familiar. So in Stuff Happens Parenting Edition, this is the same classic game of Stuff Happens, in which you're going to try and get 10 cards in front of you, going numerically through the misery index, except this one is all about stuff that might happen to you when you are a parent. So kind of more of a niche expansion / standalone here. So let's go over the components. Let's look at the gameplay. So first, box. Got the box enough to hold only the 200 cards in this. So if you want to get an expansion, you're going to have to find a different box. Also, you're going to get 200 of these cards right here, and they're going to look like this. They're going to have something bad at the top, like your kid gets braces, which is very expensive, and then the misery index here on the bottom, which will go from 0 to 100. 100 being, your kids die, to 0 being your kid, coughs on your sneezes on your arm or something. Something that's not to really matter. So, how does it work? Well, when you first start the game, you're going to deal yourself 3 cards. Everyone is going to have 3 cards in front of themselves. So I got crash, so something breaking, failed homework, you helped, which means you're kind of dumb, and kid walks in on snuggle time. Ooh, yeah, that one. Yeah, that one's not the best. So, how it works is, once everyone has 3 cards in front of them, you are going to then decide who goes first. Then the person to the right of that person is going to draw 1 card. And they're going to say 2 a.m. feedings. So, now you're going to look to the person whose turn it is, and you're going to say, all right, where do you think 2 a.m. feedings would go in the context of this? Would it be worse than something breaking? Is it better than something breaking, but worse than failed homework and you helped? Or is it better than failed homework, but worse than snuggle time? Or is it worse than your kid walking in on you on snuggle time? And they're going to try to slot the card into the correct slot. So 2 a.m. feedings, I realistically would probably put that, I'd probably put it here. Because, man, it really does eat away at your soul. But they did not agree with that. So they would say, no, that is incorrect. So now what happens is the person to the left of the person whose turn it is going to get a guess as well at the same card. But now they know some very valuable information that it's not between 30 and 54. So that person might, slot it, in the correct spot. But if they slot it in the incorrect spot, then the next person gets a turn. And everyone keeps getting a turn until someone gets it right, or until it gets back to the person who's holding the card and reading it out loud, in which case you all stink, and no one gets the point. And you're going to continue to do this. So now the person that just had their turn is going to now read the card, and it would see, let it go, having to listen to the same song over and 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 over again, which if you have kids, you know all about that. Where do you slot it? So let's just give you a feel for some of the more cards you're going to see inside of the game, and then we'll get you out of here, because that's pretty much it. You're going to continue to go until someone has 10 cards in front of them. But as you continue to go, your kid's screaming the entire flight, backseat battles, chronic bedwetter. Ooh, that one would be rough. I'm glad we dodged that one. Go out of town, kids throw party. But see, as you progressively go through and you get to, say, 7, 8, 9 cards, it's going to get much more difficult figuring out where to slot it because the numbers are going to be closer together. But anywho, that's what you're going to get inside of Stuff Happens, the Parenting Edition. But it's a very light, it's a very simple game. This is a lightweight filler game. If you have a lighter style game night, this is a family game as well, even though this one, more so than the other ones, doesn't really fit that bill as well. And also, this is a party-style game, so you have to know that going into the game. Now, I did say this is a family-style game, and I really do like this as a family-style game if your kids can do it. And that's another thing. So this is definitely more of a niche expansion than, say, the original Stuff Happens, because you have to look at it from the perspective of being a parent, and sometimes kids will have issues doing that. What I've done is I've mixed this with the original Stuff Happens, and I have a good time with the kids trying to make them imagine what it'd be like if your kids did something like that. And I think that's a fun exercise and a fun activity to work with kids on, just trying to step out of their own shoes and imagine, wow, I have kids, and my kids are fighting in the back seat, or my kid's peeing his bed every night, or I have to wake up in the middle of the night every night and feed this little human. And I think that's a really interesting experiment to try with your kids. But that being said, I still think I like the original Stuff Happens better, just because it's going to fit more situations, and it's a lot less situational. It's the same reason why I think the original Stuff Happens like an 8 or an 8.1. I'm going to give this a 7.8 because I still think it's very, very good, but it's definitely a little bit more situational, and why I gave the adult party game a 7.5, because you're going to be able to get it out in a lot less situations. Any other cons of the game? No real strategy to the game. You're also going to argue with some of the numbers. You'll be like, that's not so bad, or that's really terrible, it should be higher. And it is what it is. It's all incredibly subjective. I wish they gave you a little bit more information about how they came to it, but anywho, that's what I got on the cons. Moving on to the pros, Stuff Happens, the Pairing Edition is another rock-solid expansion / standalone to the game. Now, if you're looking to get into Stuff Happens, I still think I would recommend getting the original Stuff Happens, because I do think it is the best, but once you have that, if you're looking to add an expansion, this is a great one to add, especially if you have kids or you play with people who do have kids. And even if you don't have kids, it's still kind of fun to like say, oh, how would I feel if my kids got head lice? Or how would I feel if my kids pooped their pants at the grocery store? Where would I rank that as opposed to, getting hit in the chops or something like that? And that's a really interesting thing. So moving on to the pros, I really like this. I like mixing them all together, I think, because when you got the adult one, you really get some absolutely wildly inappropriate things mixed with just some non-inappropriate things, mixed with some parenting things, and it's fun to try and slot those in whichever order you see fit. And it's really fun when you get numbers that are the same, and you're like, oh, I guess those are about the same, and it breeds discussion. That's really my favorite aspect of this game. Cut through everything. Cut through the fact it's a light game, and it's good for parties, and all this and for that, but my favorite aspect of this game is the discussion. If you're not discussing, you're not getting as much out of this game as you should be, because it's really fun just to discuss these things and saying like, well, this could happen or this could happen. Well, let's see, is that worse than this? Is that worse than that? The game seems to think this is really bad and this might happen because of that. And it's fun to speculate. It's fun to talk about these sort of things with the people you care about. And in the end, that's why I can recommend Stuff Happens, the card game, the Parenting Edition. Do I think it's the best of the Stuff Happens? No, but is it still a really good game that I can absolutely recommend? Yes, especially if you have kids. If you don't have kids, absolutely go get Stuff Happens first, and then maybe consider getting this one. But if you do have kids, I think you're going to have a blast with this one. Just talking about it, laughing about it, and saying, oh, that has happened. That was my misery index at the time. And you'll even get some inside jokes out of it. At least I know we did when we did. But there you go. That is Stuff Happens, the card game, the Parenting Edition. If it looks like it might be your cup of tea, be sure to check that one out. If you're enjoying what I'm doing, please be sure to click on that subscribe button down below. If you want to support the channel, click on the Amazon Associate link down in the show notes. Buy anything on Amazon, same amazing great prices, but it throws a couple pennies my way. It really does help support the channel. And in the comments below, let me know what was the highest misery index you ever gave your parents? Oh, man. Getting picked up out of jail. I think that one's pretty big. I don't think it gets any bigger than that. Getting the phone call, the collect call from your kid, from your son, saying, hey, I need picked up. I'm in jail. That's probably the worst one that my dad ever got. From my mom, she died when I was 12, so it's really hard to remember, but just being an absolute jerk to my mom. I was the worst kid. I was absolutely just such a... Yeah, I was that kid. All those bad things you can think about with a kid that was me. I was terrible, terrible, terrible. Let me know in the comments below. What was the worst misery index you ever gave your parents? And as always, thanks for your time, YouTube.